Hello, everybody, and welcome into another Texas Tuesday edition here on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel, helps the content that we bring you, grows the channel so we can bring in some more people. I love college football. You guys too do too. That's why you're here. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Really helps out. Thank you guys very much for that. You have done your homework now. Now settle in and settle down for another episode of Texas Tuesdays right here on the Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers TV. This week, guys, we will be talking about Big 12 rankings when it comes to running backs. And we will also talk about, I'm only going to break down one game today. It's going to be the Houston Cougars. That's who Texas plays. I've gone through Rice. I've gone through Alabama. I've gone through Wyoming. I've gone through Kansas. And I've gone through Oklahoma. Or I believe Baylor, sorry, not Kansas. So Texas in my rankings, 4-1 so far. We lost to Alabama 28-24. Like I said, I'll break down Houston, and we'll get right into that, guys. But can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. Go over to the Texas channel. Subscribe over there. Like their content as well. It really helps us out. That's the channel we're trying to grow because I will be here every Tuesday leading up to the season, every Tuesday breaking down the game of that week in season, and then every Saturday right after Texas plays, win or loss, I will be there talking Texas football. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out this channel, guys. Please do it. Please. That's all I'm asking. It's not that hard. I'm not asking you to clean your room. I'm not asking you to wash your dishes. I'm simply asking, scroll down, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Thank you guys very much. So, like John said, hit that like button. He's got a great show on Michigan every week. Go over there and check him out. Go over to all of the team channels, like their content, subscribe. We're trying to make Mark Rogers TV the biggest influence on college football. He's already one of the biggest. We're trying to make him the biggest. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. So we are going to jump into the Big 12 running backs. And I'm going to be honest, guys. I go in this with an open mind. I try not to put Texas number one. Guys, the running back position, it's weak. It's weak in the Big 12, and we're going to go down it. And let me tell you, the last 4 to 5 teams, pretty damn bad, guys. Pretty damn bad. I was shocked looking at this. It's not very good. Honestly, if Texas, I only went 3 deep because, in my opinion, most teams are going to play 2, 3 guys max, 4 guys if someone gets injured. So, but Texas, whoever you wanted to put in the 3rd spot, Keelan Robinson or Jaden Blue, would be one of the 2 best running backs on every other team in this conference. Period. End of story. And they're our 3rd or 4th best running back, whatever order you want to put them in. I put Keelan 3rd, and we're going to jump right into that. Now, number 1 ranked running back room. I didn't count quarterbacks, guys, in this rushing attack, and I only counted the top 3 guys. Texas Longhorns. I believe Jonathan Brooks is going to start, so I'll put him there. 30 attempts, 197 yards last year, 6.6 yards per carry, good, 5 touchdowns. And then number 2, no stats behind him, but he's a 5-star running back out of Florida, Cedric Baxter, the number 1 ranked running back out of last year's high school class. I think he's going to be very good at Texas. I think he's going to get a playing time early. I think he's going to lead this team or be the second leading rusher on this team. Next up, again, you could have the debate between Jaden Blue, who sat out or didn't play much last year, and then Keelan Robinson. I went with Keelan Robinson. I think Keelan Robinson's going to get a lot of yards this year, especially in the passing game. So he is my 3rd running back for Texas. Obviously, we lost Bijan Robinson, Roschon Johnson, but this running back room is stacked. We go 4 deep, and I only put 3 on paper. Next up, we have number 2. Kind of surprised me here. I thought that'd be lower on this. The Baylor Bears. You have Richard Reese returning. He had 972 yards last year, so very good overall. 4.4 yards per carry, kind of slim there, but he had 14 touchdowns. So he's goal line back, and I think he's going to have a lot of touchdowns this year, just like he did last year, and I think he'll have more yards. Next up, we have Dominic Richardson for them. He transferred from Oklahoma State, actually was their leading rusher with over 500 yards, and we'll get to Oklahoma State later. That I kind of understand, guys, why they're ranked 7th now. Going down, you'll see what I mean when we get there. And then 3rd, we have Cleveland Jones, who was there last year too. 462 yards, 5 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. So the Baylor Bears come in 2nd. So maybe this is definitely their best room so far that I've gone down. Their quarterback room, Blake Shaman, I like, but didn't meet their standards that I thought of them last year. And then the running back room, good. It's not great, obviously. after Texas, in my opinion, there's a big drop off. Then there's about 4 to 5 other teams. And then there's even a bigger drop off after that. And then there's another drop off even after that. So there's a lot of levels to this. Just like the Big 12 in general, so many levels to it. After Texas, it's hard to rank these teams. Next up, we're going to go with West Virginia. West Virginia, CJ Donaldson. I don't know if you guys remembered him. He was very good his freshman year, got hurt last year, but when he did play, he had 526 yards, 6 yards per carry, which is good, 8 touchdowns. And their leading rusher actually transferred to Houston. His name is Tony Mathis Jr. We'll get to him in a little bit. You also have Jalen Anderson, who played for them last year with 275 yards, 7.9 yards per carry, which is good, and 2 touchdowns. And then Justin Johnson Jr., 430 yards, 4.9 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. So West Virginia is my third-ranked running back room in the Big 12. I will get to your guys' comments when we meet the halfway point, which this year is 7 teams. But those are my top 3. And then we have UCF, the first newcomer, and they have a good running back room, guys. On top of that, John Rice Plumlee was their leading rusher last year. And they still have him, and I'm not even counting him. If I counted him, honestly, they'd probably be 1 or 2. I'm just counting the running backs. RJ Harvey, 796 yards, 6.7 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. Johnny Richardson, 370 yards, 6.7 yards per carry, only 1 touchdown. And then next up, the third guy on the depth chart, Demarcus Bowman. You guys may have remembered him. Came in, 5-star recruit, came into Clemson, transferred out of there, went to Florida. He's transferred now out of Florida to get to UCF. So the guy has a lot of talent coming out of high school. He just hasn't been able to now obviously reach that talent in college. We'll see if he's able to do it here under Gus Malzahn's system, which utilizes the running backs a lot. So we'll see how he does. I have UCF as the 4th best running back room in this conference. The best newcomer, the highest newcomer here in this running back room ranking as well. Next up, we have Kansas, and we finally get to a 1,000-yard rusher, guys. We have not reached a 1,000-yard rusher. Even with Texas, we didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher there. Devin Neal, 1,090 yards, 6.1 yards per carry, 9 touchdowns. Then you have Daniel Hishaw Jr., 262 yards, 6 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. And then rounding up this running back room, Georgia Tech transfer Dylan McDuffie. He actually transferred from Buffalo to Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech didn't really do much. He only had 45 yards, 2 yards average, and 1 touchdown. So really, he's a depth piece. If Devin Neal gets hurt, this is a really bad running back room. The only reason they're number 5 on my list is because Devin Neal's here, and he had 1,000 total yards last year and 6.1 yards per game. That's the only reason they're up this high. Like I said, guys, it's slim pickings. It really is. It's really hard to pick teams in this. I did my best. It took me a long time to rank these guys. It took me about 2 hours to decide how to do this, along with getting all these stats down. So honestly, after Texas and Baylor, you can rank 2 through, let's see, about, I'm going to say 9, maybe even 10. After that, when we get down here, 11 through 14, you'll see why there's a big drop-off. It's really bad, guys. It really is. Next up, we have Kansas State, which might be a surprise to you guys because they did lose Deuce Vaughn and his yardage, which is over 1,500 yards, just rushing. But they do bring in Trayshawn Ward from Florida State, 628 yards, 6.6 yards per carry. I think he'll play pretty well with Kansas State, especially the offensive line they have, and Chris Klieman likes to run the football. DJ Giddens played pretty well last year, 518 yards in his freshman season, 5.8 yards per carry. And then Anthony Frias, honestly, not much to say here. He had 1 carry all of last year for 2 yards. He's their third running back here. But I like this room, especially if DJ Giddens turns out to be the guy we think he can be, or at least I think he can be. I think, honestly, I would not shock me at the end of the year. I know Trayshawn Ward is number 1 on the depth chart right now. If DJ Giddens surpasses him and becomes the number 1 running back on this team, I think there's a lot of explosiveness there. We'll put it that way. I think he has a chance to be very good for Kansas State. Next up, we have the second newcomer, guys. Welcome them in, and they're ranked number 7 on my list with BYU. Now, they lost their leading rusher, but they brought in 1,000-yard guys, so I had to put them up pretty high on this list because they're only one of 2 teams right now on this list so far that have a 1,000-yard back, and that's Aiden Robbins. The reason I didn't have them higher is because he transferred from UNLV. I want to see what he does at the big boy level with better defenses. But he had 1,011 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4.8 yards per carry, so pretty good. And they also brought in transfer from Colorado, Deion Smith, 343 yards, 4.7 yards per carry, 83 attempt. And then they bring back Hinckley Ropati at 189 yards, 5.3 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown. They are number 7 on my list. I think BYU has a chance to move, honestly, could move up this list. I could see someone ranking them as high as 4. 4 through 8, 7 to me is, you can discuss those, but I have to put him there because, again, Aiden Robbins played at UNLV. He had over 1,000 yards, but again, it's at UNLV. I can't. There's got to be apples and oranges here, guys. That's my opinion. It's really hard to put like UNLV schedule up with what he's going to be playing against in the Big 12. So it's going to be interesting, guys. We'll have to see. And I'm going to jump into your comments here real quick. I like that we have Joey in here because I think West Virginia's got a chance to be pretty good on the ground. Wrong. The best running back in the conference is C.J. Donaldson from West Virginia. Too bad we didn't play Texas this year, so I can prove. Hey, I like C.J. Donaldson. He's very good. He was hurt last year. Like I said, I have him ranked decently high, but they could be higher. If C.J. Donaldson is fully healthy, they'll definitely, in my opinion, be higher than where I had him. But we'll have to see. Tony Matthews was going to be behind Donaldson and Johnson. That's why Matthews transferred. 100% why he transferred to Houston. But he had a pretty good year last year. He wasn't great, but he had a pretty good year for West Virginia. Dave Snorth says next year, maybe. Confused by that. Ed Rogers, maybe you're talking about, could Texas beat Michigan next year? Yeah, I think they could. I don't think it'll be that high scoring, Ed Rogers. You have 51-45. I don't really see that. Joey says, I think we can win 7 games. We play the 4 newcomers plus Pitt in the cupcake. We can win 7, I think. I 100% agree with you, Joey. I think your high watermark is 7. Realistically, I think you're a 5-win team, though. I think Cincinnati's the worst team in this conference. We'll get to them in their running back room. I had Emory Jones as either the 13th or 14th best quarterback. I forget what I had on that. But I'm just going to tell you right now, are the worst running back room in the Big 12. We'll get to them. They don't have anything in that running back room. On top of Emory Jones being one of the worst quarterbacks in the Big 12, they're the worst team, period, end of story. I think after that, you can debate who's the second worst. I think Oklahoma, honestly, I thought Oklahoma State was going to surprise some people. Then I got to their quarterback room and their running backs, and it's not good. So that's going to be interesting there as well. I think, honestly, 7 might be way too high. That's where they were ranked in the preseason poll. That will be very interesting. Yeah, I think where you have them ranked, I do think Texas has a better running back room, but the best running back is Donaldson, I think. I can get on board with that 100%. Like I said, that's why I ranked the room top 3. If I was ranking just running backs, he's probably, yeah, you're right. He's either number 1 or 2. Honestly, I would either have Richard Reese or C.J. Donaldson because they have experience. They have stats behind what they do. Texas really doesn't have that. I think Jonathan Brooks is going to have a gigantic year, but he really hasn't played that much, guys. So we'll have to see what happens. But right now, like I said, I have Texas as the number 1 ranked running back room. We're going to jump right back into this real quick. And number 8, a little bit down the list compared to what I think most people think, but Oklahoma, guys. Oklahoma doesn't have a great running back room. They lost Eric Gray, their leading rusher last year with over 1,300 yards. And then you get to someone like, can anyone right now name me the starting running back for Oklahoma? I'll give you about 15 seconds and I'll jump into it. But, guys, I was shocked by this. And overall, their top 3 running backs are not very good. One guy who's second on the depth chart only has 17 attempts last year. This team, I think Oklahoma's going to be – I think they're going to win 8 games, but it's only because of the schedule. I think they're probably not much better than they were last year, honestly. Running backs don't need experience. I do agree with you, Ed. Running backs don't need experience, but – I have to weigh that somewhat. Billy Sims, Dave said. No, they do need Billy Sims, though. But it is Javonte Barnes. He had 519 yards last year, 4.5 yards per carry and 5 touchdowns. So overall, decent. And then the second guy I was talking about is Gavin Salchuk. 17 attempts last year, guys. 17 attempts. And actually, I think that's on his career. 105 yards, 6.2 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. And it is just last year. And then Marcus Bagers. What a fall from grace he has had, guys. He is ranked 3rd on their depth chart, 227 yards, 4.1 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns last year. That is why I have Oklahoma ranked 8th. And honestly, you could debate them as a little bit lower. Next up, I do have Houston. For the simple fact, and these next 2 I may get some heat on, but I have Houston. Tony Mathis Jr., Joey reference, was the leading rusher, mostly because C.J. Donaldson was hurt, but he was the leading rusher at West Virginia last year. He had 562 yards, 4.2 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. Stacy Sneed was their leading rusher last year, other than Clayton Tune. Clayton Tune, their quarterback, who threw for 40 touchdowns, was actually their leading rusher. But out of the running backs, Stacy Sneed was second, 501 yards, 6.6 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. And then Brandon Campbell, 438 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. I think this is a good solid room where each of these guys will probably have 450 to 500 yards this year and just rotate. So you get 1,500 yards from these 3 guys, in my opinion. I think that's a pretty good room. They could be a little bit higher than 9. Honestly, they could be over Oklahoma. I don't think I could put them over BYU, but they could be as high as 8 to me. Next up, we have TCU. And this one, guys, is so hard for me because there is talent here, but they don't have any experience. Sonny Dykes is pretty good with his running backs. They lost Keandre Miller, obviously, and Amari DeMarcado. Both of them are gone. Those were the 2 leading rushers with over 2,000 yards between them. So you bring back Imani Bailey with 250 yards, 8 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, and Trent Battle with 38 yards and 4.2 yards per carry. And then you bring in Trey Sanders from Alabama. A lot of talent there. I think he can be very good, but he only had 80 yards last year and 5.7 yards per carry, so that's going to be interesting. I have TCU at number 10 for that simple fact. At the end of the year, honestly, guys, I could see this as top 3 to 4 running back room. But right now, from experience standpoint, from honestly, just that experience standpoint, not talent, but experience standpoint, and the stats wise, I have to put them here, guys. I have to put them at 10. They're not that good stats wise, and I can't really rank them any higher than that. I couldn't justify it. I can't do that. Next up, we have Texas Tech, and after Texas Tech, it is a nosedive, guys. Like, there's probably high school running backs right now that are better than the next 3 teams we talk about after Texas Tech and Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and Cincinnati. That's a little preview for that. Texas Tech. So Texas Tech has Taj Brooks, who does return. Taj Brooks was pretty good last year, guys. He had 691 yards, 4.7 yards per carry, and 7 touchdowns. And then after that, it falls off. Cameron Valdez, 169 yards, 9.4 yards per carry, so that is good, but 0 touchdowns. And then Donnell Bryson, 72 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, and 0 touchdowns. Not very good, guys. And number 12, we have Iowa State. And honestly, you could probably argue Iowa State and Texas Tech, and I may have misspoke, guys. I think Texas Tech, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, honestly, dumpster fires at running back. Iowa State, Jarrell Brock, 445 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. Cartavius Norton, 312 yards, 3.6 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. And Eli Sanders, 197 yards, 4.2 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns. It gets really, really bad, guys. Oklahoma State at 13. They lost their leading rusher, who only had 553 yards last year, to Baylor. He's their backup now. And their number 1 running back going into next year has 181 yards last year on 3.9 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns. Number 2, Ollie Gordon, he was actually, their leading running. He led them, or was second in rushing last year behind Dominic Richardson, but he's second on the depth chart. Don't know why. 308 yards, 5.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. And they have a transfer from Michigan State who had 318 yards last year, 4.5 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns, and Elijah Collins. They are my 13th running back room. And Cincy, by far the worst running back room, guys. Corey Kiner was their backup last year. He had 362 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. Miles Montgomery, 120 yards, 8.6 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. And Ethan Wright, who is a senior. He's a senior, guys. In his career, has 43 yards. That's your 3rd best running back. So that means if Corey Kiner or Miles Montgomery gets hurt, you're relying on this guy probably heavily for carries. On top of that, you have Emory Jones at quarterback. They're going to be really bad this year. Cincinnati is going to be the worst team of the Big 12. Which, honestly, if Satterfield does a good job with the team and they end up not the 13th or 14th best team, honestly, if they don't end up the 14th best team, he's done a really good job coaching because this is a bad roster. They have nothing at running back. They have nothing at quarterback. Next week, we'll go to the offensive line. We'll see if they have anything there. I will say another reason why I have Houston up a little higher than probably where they should be at number 9 is because they returned all 5 offensive linemen, and that's rare. So that's why I have them up that high. If anyone has any comments on any of these rooms, go for it. This took a while, so unless you did the research like I did, I don't think there's really much of a debate. The only thing I kind of regret, I think I probably should have Houston a little bit lower, maybe 10. swap them in TCU, but I'm confident in every other room I pick, guys. After the top 4 to 5, honestly, after 9 guys, 10 to 14 is pretty bad. So it's going to be interesting in the Big 12 this year. I really like your rankings, but I do disagree with TCU. Not that they are great, but I would rank them higher than a couple others. That's fair, Joey. Let's see, I have them ranked 10. Yeah, so where would you rank them, Joey? Would you rank them above? Houston's fine. If you want to debate that. Oklahoma, maybe. I couldn't rank them higher than 8. I think BYU's better than Houston, better than TCU at running back. I do. I know that guy Aiden Robbins transferred from UNLV, but you put up 1,000 yards. I'm putting them over to TCU, who has nothing to back them up any higher than, to me, 8. I think that's the highest you could put them. I think BYU is definitely better than them. I think Kansas State's better than them. I think Kansas is better than them. But that's the highest I could put TCU. Could I end up being wrong? If Trey Sanders meets his ceiling, guys, TCU could climb all the way up to probably 3 on this list, but I don't think he's going to. I think at some point you have to realize that someone may have been a 5-star coming out of high school, but he's probably not going to be that. Like DeMarcus Bowman for UCF, he's their 3rd-string running back. Do I really expect him to do much this year, even though he's a 5-star recruit? No, because guess what? He went to Clemson, didn't do anything. He went to Florida, didn't really do anything. So now he's at UCF, and that's what I think is going to end up happening to Trey Sanders. If he doesn't have a good year this year, he'll probably transfer somewhere else and even a lower level. Sandra, I'd have to look at Oklahoma State's schedule again on the last week before the season starts. I'm going to rank how I think the Big 12 will finish. Yeah, maybe they have an easy schedule, but having the 2nd worst running back room and Alan Bowman at quarterback, I don't know. We'll have to see. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, TCU at 8 maybe. I could see them at 8. Like I said, there's a couple interchangeable pieces, but you can't really debate Cincy at 14. Can't debate Oklahoma State 13. I think, honestly, I'm pretty confident 11 through 14. I think TCU could be a little higher. I think Houston could be a little lower. I have them at 9. Oklahoma could be, honestly, I think Oklahoma's ranked right. I think 8's like perfect for them. I don't know what to expect from them this year. They could be a lot higher, could be lower, honestly. But Texas 1, Baylor 2, West Virginia 3, UCF 4, Kansas 5, and Kansas State 6 are my top 6 for the running back rooms. We'll jump into your comments real quick. And like it is scrolling down below, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So could you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel. I want as many people in here as possible. I want 200 to 300 people. I want to generate the best discussion possible we can on college football. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Go over to the Texas channel, like all that content. Subscribe over there. Go over to the other channels, like their content, and subscribe. It really helps out, guys. Thank you. I can't see Venables at OU 3 years from now. And yeah, prayers out to Brent Venables. Obviously, his wife was diagnosed with cancer. That means a hell of a lot more than college football. So prayers out to them. I hope she obviously recovers well. And she's here to watch Brent Venables coach as long as he's able to coach for. It will be interesting. I kind of agree with that, honestly, looking at this running back room. And then Dillon Gabriel has a lot on his plate, guys. If Dillon Gabriel doesn't play to the 2nd or 3rd best quarterback in this conference, Oklahoma's not going to be very good. Again, their schedule's so bad. If he loses or wins anything less than 7 games, honestly, you might as well just fire him after this year because he's not going to be he's definitely not going to work. Like, this team needs to win at least 8 games with that schedule. That schedule is terrible. I do have a question for Texas. How does it feel like you can be replaced by Colorado, who won one game last year? LOL, only kidding. I will miss the West Virginia UT games. We had some really good ones. 100%. West Virginia, honestly, I always look forward to playing against them because we played each other pretty tough. It was always hard going to Morgantown. And it's funny. We usually beat you there, but you beat us at home. So it is. I'm going to miss that game. It's a fun game. I don't think the players will miss it because of the plane ride, but it was a fun game, a fun little series. I'm always going to remember the friggin' Will Grier throw back of the end zone. So, yeah, that was fun. I'm always going to remember that. But we also knocked you off a couple times when we probably shouldn't have to. So, all in all, good series. I will miss it. Man, the shine of Matt Campbell has been tarnished. Yes, I would agree. I mean, Iowa State, I had him as the 12th worst or 12th best room, second, third worst room in the Big 12. I like Hunter Deckers. I had him ranked decently high when I did the quarterback rankings. I think Iowa State is going to be back to being a 5-6 win team this year. I don't think they're going to be terrible. I don't think you can just walk all over them when we play them. I think we'll probably obviously beat them by a touch or 2, maybe 3 scores. But yeah, he should have taken the jobs when he got offered them, but he didn't. And now he's probably honestly going to be at Iowa State for the rest of his career, unless he may get a slight bump up to a better team, but he's never going to get the jobs that he was talking about, like a Wisconsin. For whatever reason, he's be talking as the New York Jets head coach. That will never come up again. He will never get a shot at the NFL unless some team gets desperate, which I wouldn't hire him. But hey, owners have hired coaches in the past that I wouldn't hire, so who knows what the hell they think sometimes. But I wouldn't have hired him. Oklahoma easy schedule. Also UT versus OU-CCG. There we go, Joey. Invite your friends and share this link on all your social media platforms. I know UT has a lot more than 14 fans. Share this link. Yes, please share this link. Like I said, I love having you guys in here to drive this discussion. I love being able to talk to you guys. I love being able to talk Big 12 football. Honestly, I like doing stuff like this, guys, like breaking down the Big 12 running back rankings, because when you do that, it allows me to look more in depth to the Big 12 and what should I expect for Texas if my expectations are unrealistic or realistic. Honestly, guys, my expectations are realistic. Like, after our running back room, I think there's a drop off, and then after after Baylor, Kansas State, Kansas, all those teams, I think there's another drop off. So I don't think I'm being unrealistic with our team. So it's going to be interesting this year. I think Texas should easily win 10 games. Ed, can Texas win 6 games next year? Yes, Texas can win 6 games. Texas should easily win above 6 games. Texas should minimum win 10 games. The schedule's not – I mean, it's hard for the Big 12, but it's not a brutally hard schedule. As I've gone through the quarterback list and the running back list so far, I mean, we have the best quarterback room. We have the best running back room. When we get to wide receivers, that's not even going to be a debate. We have one of the 2 to 3 best rooms in the country. So how you don't win the Big 12 is bad coaching. And if Sark doesn't get to the Big 12 championship game, he has done a bad job coaching, period. End of story. He's done a bad job coaching. They have to get to the Big 12 championship game. He had a press conference today, I believe. I want to go and watch that because some of the quotes seems like he knows that the pressure is on him and that he wants the pressure, which I freaking love, because we have not had someone here at Texas in a long time that has embraced the pressure, in my opinion. Charlie Strong definitely didn't do that. Tom Herman definitely didn't do that. So I'm hoping Steve Sarkisian has done that. Julian Smith, when Texas joins the SEC, it'll be difficult for both teams with road trips to Gainesville, Florida, Baton Rouge, Tennessee, or Knoxville, and Tuscaloosa, or Alabama, Auburn. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they'll be hard, but honestly, out of all those teams you mentioned, we're better than I think right now we're better than Florida and better position. I think we're basically in the same spot LSU is, honestly. I don't know if we're better than them. We'll have to see how this year plays out going forward, but similar positions, honestly. So we'll see. That's a year away. Big 12 is what we need to concentrate on. Joey says, I have Texas winning the Big 12. They 100% should win the Big 12, but he has them making the playoffs. That'll be interesting. Like I said, the week before, I will put out my playoff prediction as well. I'll probably put out the top 6 teams. He has Bama, USC, Texas, and surprise Penn State. I like the Penn State pick, Joey. I think Penn State's going to be very good this year. I think Penn State finishes second in the Big Ten, though. I believe Michigan wins the Big Ten again. Right now, like I said, I have a couple weeks before I make these predictions and set them in stone. But I would go Michigan, USC, Georgia, and Florida State. Those would be my 4. Michigan, USC, Georgia, and Florida State. I believe I don't know. The Pac-12 is going to be very good this year. I think Pac-12 is probably going to be the second best conference. And it's going to be close with them in the Big Ten. Obviously, you have Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, and then in the Pac-12, I think their top three will probably be USC, Washington, and then honestly Oregon State. I think Oregon State's going to be very good this year. I think Washington also will be very good. But we'll have to see, guys. Oregon, I think, will be pretty good as well. So I would put the top four of the Pac-12 versus every other conference other than the SEC and say they could beat the other top four teams in every conference. Obviously, in the Big Ten, it's going to be interesting. After the top three teams, who's the fourth best team? Is it Nebraska? Is it Wisconsin? Is it Iowa? I was on the live stream last night. Obviously, you have I forget his name, but it is Corey, I believe. Runs the Iowa channel, said Iowa has a possibility of going 11-1. Yeah, I think their ceiling is 11-1. Realistically, I think they're a 9-win team. I do think Cade McNamara is better than Spencer Petras. Spencer Petras was god-awful last year in Iowa in general. I agree. I don't think you can be much worse. Can they be? Would it shock me if they ended up being the same, though, on offense? No, because you have the same guy calling plays, and there's egos involved, guys. That's why he hasn't been fired yet, on top of he's the coach's son. So it's going to be interesting. Ed says Wisconsin is the fourth best team. Possibly, yeah. It's going to be interesting. Minnesota could be in there. Obviously, the one team that won't be is Northwestern. Northwestern is going to be abysmal for the next probably half decade. And it's going to be interesting who will actually be able to take that, or who would actually want that job. That's going to be very interesting as well. But honestly, guys, that's what I'm saying. When you group these conferences together, they're top 3 to 4 teams. You have Clemson and Florida State in the ACC. You have Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, LSU in the SEC. You have USC, Washington, Oregon State, Oregon in the Pac-12. And then in the Big 12, who do you have, guys? You have Texas. In my opinion, if I ask 10 people who's going to finish second in the Big 12, you would get like 7 different answers. I think a couple people would agree, but it'd be very hard to find 10 people. Let's say 70% of them chose the second best team, and whoever that was. That's not going to happen. If you ask 10 people, I think 9 out of 10 would agree Texas is the best team in the Big 12. We have to, guys. We have to. I don't know. I'll climb Mount Everest if you want me to and shout it from the top that Texas has to win the Big 12. They have to win the Big 12. There's no excuses. There's no reason not to. You have the best quarterback room. You have the best running back room. I'm just going to spoil it for the wide receiver show when we do that in probably 2 weeks because we're doing offensive line. By the way, we're going to have the best offensive line. I know that just by every ranking that's come out, and I know what's in that room. We're either going to have the best or second best offensive line in the Big 12. We have the best wide receivers in the Big 12. If we don't win the Big 12 or I'm not even going to say win. Get to the Big 12 championship game. It's a failure. Steve Sarkisian failed. You can say whatever you want about him at that point. I don't care, but you have to get to the Big 12 championship game. Joey says, I don't think the ACC makes it in this year. FSU Clemson will have a couple of losses. That is possible, but I do think Florida State's going to be very good. They're the number one. They have the number one most returning talent out of all of college football. All college football, they're number one returning production. On top of that, I just feel like Mike Norvell's a pretty good coach. I think they make a big jump from year 2 to year 3, so that's why I'm in the playoff. Ohio State will be fourth rather. I don't think they will be. I think Ohio State, everyone just thinks it's plug and play at the quarterback system, and I do for the most part believe that. But do I think Kyle McCord is going to be as good as Justin Fields or CJ Stroud? I don't. I just don't. I'm sorry. And they lost with both of those guys to Michigan. So you're telling me Kyle McCord's going to be better and the defense is going to be a lot better? I don't believe that. I think Michigan is the best team in the Big Ten. And I think Penn State with Drew Aller at quarterback is going to be the second best team. I'm sorry, Ohio State fans. I think Ohio State's the third best team in the Big Ten. I will keep saying that. And when I'm right, I will be back on here to brag about it because I will be right on that. I don't care what you guys say. Ohio State will be the third best team in the Big Ten. Ed Rogers says Devin Brown. Okay. Who is your quarterback? Do you guys know? Because I've heard Kyle McCord and I've heard Devin Brown from multiple different people. If you don't even know who your quarterback is at this point, you're not winning the Big Ten. You're not. The best you can finish this year is second. Period. End of story. You're the second best team at best in the Big Ten this year. In my opinion, third. USC needs to win the Pac and Texas Big 12 because it would be funny. Why? Oh, it would be funny. I understand what you're saying. I think the funniest scenario obviously is Texas Oklahoma playing for the Big 12 championship, and Texas and Oklahoma fans selling that play style and chanting SEC. That's freaking hilarious. It'll be interesting if that happens. I don't think Oklahoma will make it. I think we'll make it. Again, if I had to predict right now who plays us in the championship game in the Big 12, I would probably say Texas Tech. I would have to say Texas Tech. Michigan did it last year with J.J. McCarthy, I believe is what you're saying. Yes, but Michigan's defense is better than Ohio State's was this year. And also, you have Blake Corum at running back. Now, if TreVeyon Henderson comes back from his injury and is phenomenal like he was his freshman year, that could change things. But you have to have more balance on offense this year. You can't just be a pass-happy team, especially with breaking in a new quarterback. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, I still think they're the second best team in the Big Ten at best. But I think they're third, honestly. I think Penn State is gonna have a really good year. I do. And people are gonna say, well, Drew Allar hasn't played. Well, he played a little bit last year. Their defense is good. I trust defense and I trust offensive line play. Penn State is gonna have just as good, if not better, offensive line play than Ohio State. Their defense is gonna be better than Ohio State. And I think Drew Allar is gonna be better whoever starts at quarterback than Ohio State. Ohio State does have better wide receivers. I believe that will help out whoever plays quarterback. Because let's be honest, versus half that schedule, if your guys are able to complete slants and screens, you're going to win. That's why it's so hard sometimes to judge college football games, guys, because half the schedule for these teams with all this talent is just garbage anyways. You're going to beat them you should at least beat them by 2 to 3 touchdowns minimum. So it's going to be hard. Obviously, you're going to judge Ohio State off Michigan, Wisconsin, Penn State. I'd have to look at their schedule, but those 3 for sure. And then I don't know if they play Iowa. I think I would judge them offensively on how they play versus Iowa as well. So that's like 4 games you play that you can be judged by. I think Texas is the same way. You're going to get judged on Alabama. You're going to get judged on Oklahoma. You're going to get judged on Kansas State because they're always fundamentally sound, always a pretty good team. Those are the 3 right now that I can think of. Everyone else is going to be interesting to see. But I think we might jump into breaking down Houston versus Texas, guys. But can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below before I do that. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. I am going to actually answer this one comment that I got real quick, and then I will do that. ND, Ed Rogers, ND. I don't know what that means. Notre Dame? That's the only ending that comes to mind. And if so, what do you mean by that? But we're going to jump into the Houston Cougars, guys, coming over from the American Athletic Conference. They were not very good last year, honestly, guys. They were 8-5, 5-3 in the conference, and they returned 82nd in returning production, which is not very high out of 131 teams. They had 36.1 points per game last year scored on offense, which is 17th in the country, and 32.2 points per game on defense, which is very bad, 112th in the country. They lost a lot, guys. They lost a lot. They returned all of their offensive line, so that does help. But they lost Clayton Tune with 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. They lost Nathaniel Dell with 1,398 yards, 17 touchdowns, and almost 13 yards per catch. They lost Donovan Mooten, who led the team with tackles with 85. And they lost DeAnthony Jones, 13.5 tackles for loss and 8 sacks, led the team in both. So you lost your 2 best players on defense and also J.C. Rogers, who led the team in interceptions. So you lost 2 out of your 3 or 4 best players on defense. You lost your 2 best players on offense, and you went 8-5 in the American Athletic Conference. And I'm supposed to think you're going to be better in the Big 12 or just as good. I think this team's a 6-6 team at best. Obviously, you bring over Donovan Smith from Texas Tech, who transferred and played pretty well at Texas Tech. And like I said, you bring in Tony Mathis Jr. from West Virginia at running back. He'll be your starting running back, and he's pretty good. Their offensive line does return in whole, and I talked about that when we were ranking running back rooms because I believe that's a big key to that as well. So that does help them on offense. Their defense was so bad last year, guys, and that's where they're returning all their players is on defense. So I don't think this team's going to be very good. I think Texas wins this game pretty freaking easily. That's what I'm saying. I just keep looking at the schedule, what teams have lost and what we kept. I think we beat Houston 45-20. I think it's a 45-20 game. I think it's probably like 45-13 going into the fourth quarter, and we're emptying the bench. So 45-20, we should blow them out. This isn't a very good team. In my opinion, they win 5-6 games. 6 games is the most I could see them winning in their first year in the Big 12. I think they're going to score a lot of points. They'll probably average about 30 points a game. I think they'll take a little about a touchdown step back there. but I think they're going to give up more points. I think they'll probably give up 33 to 35 points a game, which is 3 to 5 more points per game than they gave up last year. So I don't think this team's very good, guys. I don't think they're going to win very many games. I think they're 5-7. I think we beat them 45-20. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on them, especially after looking at the roster. So that's what I think, guys. I think Texas wins 45-20 rather easily. They just lost way too much on offense, and other than the offensive line, and their defense returns a decent amount of people, other than probably 3 out of their 4 best players. But you're returning honestly average guys off a terrible defense. I think they're going to be just as bad, if not worse, on defense, mainly for the fact that they're coming over to a different conference. And then secondly, they lost a lot of their good players. So they'll score points because it's Dana Holgorsen, but I think a lot of it's going to be in shootouts as the games they win. There will be very few games they hold their opponents to under 30 points, in my opinion, in the Big 12. So it's going to be interesting to watch them, but I think Dana Holgorsen tried to leave the Big 12 for more money so he get an easier life and headed right back into it with a worse circumstance and a worse team. So I think we beat them 45-20. We're going to jump right back into these comments. Texas is always judged on Oklahoma, and Alabama is always a whale on the schedule. 100%. It's going to be an interesting game. Ed Rogers, I get you say we play Notre Dame for Ohio State. Yeah, that'll be a hard game as well. That's also hard to tell how good Notre Dame's going to be. Sarkisian quoting John Wick 12-0. I have not seen that press conference yet, Paxton. I'm going to watch it as soon as I jump off here. Like I said, I was doing research on the running back rooms and ranking those, but I saw a couple of the quotes, and I like what I saw. It seems like he wants all the pressure, all the responsibilities of being the Texas football coach, and that's what I want. We haven't had that here since Mac Brown, honestly, because Tom Herman definitely didn't do it. And then Charlie Strong, honestly, I don't think ever had the roster or confidence to do that. So we haven't had it since Mac Brown. Dave, I understand Andre Ware is looking great. And where's the Houston game? The Houston game is at Houston. We could play them on the moon, guys. They lost way too much. You can't lose a quarterback like Clayton Tune and an NFL wide receiver like Tank Dell or Nathaniel Dell and be that good again on offense, even with Dana Holgorsen going into a new conference. This is a 6-win team, Max. They really are. Honestly, I think the bottom of the Big 12 is probably going to end up being Cincinnati, Houston, and West Virginia in some order. I think if I had to guess, it would probably be Cincinnati, West Virginia, Houston. So it'll be interesting, but we'll see, guys. I think those are the 3 worst teams in the Big 12. Sorry, Joey Foster, if he's still in there, but I think Houston, West Virginia, and Cincinnati are 3 worst teams in the Big 12. And again, guys, can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. Can you also go over and subscribe to the Texas channel? Please do that. Please, please, please do that. And like their content as well. Thank you guys very much. I love talking to you guys. Keep dropping those comments in. We'll probably go for about 15 more minutes, 10, 15 more minutes. So thank you guys. I still have a sneaking suspicion that Texas won't be Big 12 chance. Go and do it. Okay, that's fine. That's fine if you believe that. I just want to know why, because we haven't done it in the past. Because if you look at the rosters, our roster is clearly better. And you can say, oh, well, your roster has always been clearly better. That's not true. It's just not. Go look at the rosters before. Could you argue we have had the second or third best roster in the Big 12 most years? Agreed. But where it matters, where football games are won, how Georgia's winning national championship, our offensive and defensive line. Our offensive and defensive line, up until last year, were not very good, guys. Under Tom Herman, he recruited abysmally. I believe he recruited 14 offensive linemen in the 4 years he was at Texas. That is terrible. That's not unacceptable. I believe Steve Sarkisian did that in the first year and a half as he was at Texas. And we haven't put any offensive linemen into the NFL draft for the most part, other than Sam Cosmi and Connor Williams. So that's where you win football games, and we're great there now. Our offensive line is going to be one of the 5 best offensive line in the country, period, end of story. We have the best offensive line in the Big 12. We have one of the best, depth-wise, we have one of the best defensive lines in the Big 12. We don't have any A-level talent there, in my opinion, or at least we haven't shown any A-level talent. But we have the depth guys, in my opinion, a lot of B-, B-plus guys like Justice Finkley, Tavondre Sweat, Barron Sorrell, guys like that. But we'll have to see. Obviously, wide receiver room, one of the 3 best in the country, best in the Big 12. Running back room, one of the probably 15, 20 best in the country. We'll say 15. One of the 15 best in the country, best in the Big 12. There's really no debate here, guys, about how good this roster is with the rest of the Big 12. Oklahoma was the one that used to compete with us when you go roster by roster. And then in the trenches, you would throw in Kansas State every once in a while, would have a better offensive line than us. That's not the case anymore. We have overwhelmingly, we have the best offensive line in this conference. Overwhelmingly, we have the best wide receiver room in this conference. Overwhelmingly, we have the best quarterback room in this conference. There's nothing up to debate here. If you want to debate Texas past, that's fine. And that worries me just as much as it worries you guys. I'm worried about that. That's why I'm going to end up having this team go 10-2. But let's be honest here. With this schedule and with the talent, this team should be 11-1. They should be. We'll have to see. Roster has been excellent. Again, we've been excellent at certain positions. We haven't been this deep at all these positions. Matthew, go look at, my name is Matthew too, but go look at our offensive line the last 7 years. It hasn't been good. There's been no guys that have gotten to the NFL. We have, in my opinion, I think Christian Jones will play in the NFL, most likely. Kelvin Banks is playing in the NFL, period, end of story. So that's one guy right there. If he continues to progress the way he played his freshman year, he will be a first-round draft pick in the NFL. I think Cole Hudson has a future in the NFL. So that's 3 guys right there on our starting offensive line that I believe will play in the NFL. I think there's a couple guys like Cam Williams and Nato also, I think, have a chance at some point. And DJ Campbell, didn't even mention him. Those 3 guys, when they get in, if they prove themselves, they could play in the NFL. There's potential, guys, max. You have 6 guys on this roster that are in the offensive line room that play in the NFL. I think 3 are a lock. I think there's a possibility of 6. That's insane. We haven't had that at Texas in 15, 20 years. Dave, if Texas has a great season, the internet college football chat will be wrecked. Yes, it will. We will be fucking annoying. Excuse my language, but we will be. Discreet losing to TCU and lesser teams. That's fair. But if you want to put your money on someone else to win the Big 12, you go ahead. I'd be interested to see who you believe will win the Big 12. Like I said, I think it's a failure if we don't get to the Big 12 championship game. Honestly, if we got to the game and then lost it, I could live with that, but we have to get to it. Period. End of story. If we don't get to it, it's an abysmal failure. Abysmal failure. Your thoughts on the safety position in general, Paxton? That is a very good question. So Jaron Thompson, I've always liked, and I know he was hurt, but that guy doesn't seem to want to hit. So that's going to be interesting there. Obviously, Jalen Catalon, if he's healthy, is very, very good. It's going to be interesting, honestly. The safety position is one where I think it has one of the highest ceilings of any position group on this team, but it also has one of the lowest floors. I think the only other room that I think of that has the lowest floor is the linebacker room. And I'm only saying that because if Jalen Ford or Anthony Hill gets hurt, then I think you're going to have to see someone step up, and that's going to be hard for me to believe. But the safety room is kind of the same. If Jaron Thompson doesn't perform or Jalen Catalon gets hurt, who comes in? Michael Taft? Like, I like Michael Taft, but he's a walk-on. He played okay when he played last year. I love the cornerback room. The cornerback room's 4 or 5 deep there. I believe in that room. That room, in my opinion, is going to surprise some people, and I think people are going to understand how good that cornerback room is week 2. You have Holmes. You have Jahdae Barron. You have Terrence Brooks. You have a lot of good players there, guys. I already said Jahdae Barron. There's someone else I'm forgetting. Keaton Crawford also. There's someone else I'm just leaving out, and I'm sorry about that. But there's 4 or 5 guys in there I trust. I think quarterback room is going to be fine. I think the safety room is a little bit shallow. It's going to be interesting. We'll have to see. And then the linebacker room, the same thing. I like the upper end talent at the safety and linebacker room. But if someone gets hurt, it's going to be very, very, very interesting what happens there. The defensive line, you don't need to worry about. Defensive line is going to be okay because we're just going to rotate like 8 guys and we'll be fine. There's no way Sark brought in Catalon not to start. Keaton Crawford will start tomorrow, but Catalon starts week 100%. Catalon starts week 1. The only issue with him is health. That's literally it. Because that guy, when he plays, is an All-American. That's how good he is. If he had been healthy at Arkansas, he wouldn't have transferred here. You know where he would be playing right now? The NFL. That's how good that guy is. The issue is health. We'll have to see. If Texas doesn't win the conference, for me, it'll be utter failure. Okay. But you have not yet to give me who you believe will win the conference. I need to know who won the conference. Texas has to win, right? This is their year. I'm here for that. They have to. I agree. They have to. I don't see a possibility where they don't win. Like, I think a chimpanzee could come in on the sidelines, guys, and they win 9 games. That's how good this roster is. If Steve Sarkisian is a great coach, this team will go, or if Steve Sarkisian is a great coach going forward, they will win 11 games. If he does what he's just supposed to do, he's a C guy. He just rides the ship. He's able to recruit decent talent and rides the ship. This team will be 10-2. That's what I think. I think a 9-3 team, basically a chimpanzee from the zoo, you could bring it in. That's what they'd be. 10-2 is you're a C coach. You get the job done with, if you bring in the right talent, you win 10 games. 11 is possibility that he turns into a great coach or is a great coach. So that's my opinion on that. Obviously, if we get 12-0, I think you can shut the door. I think Sark's going to be here for a very long time if we go 12-0, because that means you run the schedule in a decent Big 12 with Alabama. It's a hard schedule. So we'll have to see. He's losing to TCU is a touchy subject. Yes, it is. Paxton, hot take, but does this team have the depth like the 2005 team? Question marks at linebacker and safety. Okay, so this is hard for me because I'm going to give my age away, but I was only 8 years old for the 2005 team. But quarterback room, no, because you had Colt McCoy and Vince Young. So no, it's close, but no. Because we also know what those guys turned out to be. Again, if we go down 5 years down the road and Quinn Ewers is lighting up the NFL and Arch Manning or Malik Murphy come in and win 10 games in the SEC when they play, then possibly. Wide receiver room, yes, no doubt about it. Hell yes. I think this wide receiver room is great. Tight end, probably. I really like Jatavian Sanders. Behind him, there's question marks. Linebacker, definitely not. Defensive, no, because defensive line, we just didn't have a Brian Orakpo or anything like that. Like Brian Orakpo, imagine if we could get Brian Orakpo and bring him to this year and just have him in his prime at Texas. Like, you know how much that would help? If I could bring back any player and just put him on this team, I would either bring back Joseph Asai, Sergio Kittle, or Brian Orakpo. I need someone to wreak havoc on the edge. Somebody. Will someone, for the love of God, step up? Hell, I would take Alex Okafor at this point. So we need someone to step up on the edge. I think Barron Sorrell will do that. I think he will have a good year. I think we'll have 8+ sacks this year, but we need someone. I'm 24 tomorrow, buddy. Well, congratulations and happy birthday. I hope it is a good one. It sucks getting old. The thing is, they are odds on, but there could be another TCO this year, KSU Tech. But see, you can't just say, okay, Texas is going to win the Big 12 and then not give me a prediction on who is. You can't do that. I'm not allowing that. You got to think. Think for me. It's not going to be TCU. I'm telling you that right now. TCU is not winning Big 12. QB is solid. Your team is solid. I think Texas is too deep at QB with 3 coming. They should be good. 100% agree. We should be, but we should have been. Again, do I think Texas should win the Big 12 every year like people think? No. And by the way, people in the media who covers the Big 12 doesn't think that. This is the first time we've been predicted to win the Big 12 since 2009. But do I think we should have finished, like, if, in my opinion, every year we've been in the Big 12, or obviously ever since Mac Brown, if you just go Mac Brown, Charlie Strong, Tom Herman, we should finish sophomore in the Big 12, period, end of story, every year. Like, we have that type of roster, and we haven't done that. I agree. But do I think we should have won it every year like some people think? No, we shouldn't have, because we didn't have the depth at linebacker a lot of the time. We didn't have the depth at offensive line. We didn't have the depth at defensive line. And we didn't have, honestly, a good enough quarterback. The only quarterback the last couple times, last decade and a half, that, in my opinion, you could drop on this team and this team would still be pretty good are Sam Ehlinger and David Ash. That's it. I'm not putting Gerard Hurd in that category. I'm not putting Tyron Swoops in that category. So we really haven't been as good at certain positions that you need to be good as people think. In my opinion, the 3 most important positions on college football teams and football in general are your quarterback, your offensive line, tackle, guard, whatever you want to say, but offensive line, and then defensive tackle. I think those are the 3 most important positions on college football, because Defensive tackle. It's a straight line to the quarterback. Ask when the Bengals played Aaron Donald in the Super Bowl how that worked out for him. Straight up the gut. He had 3.5 sacks in the game, wreaked havoc. They won that game because of him. That's how you win in football. Jordan Davis at Georgia was the same way. It's a straight line to the quarterback. We haven't had a good defensive tackle since Malcolm Brown, honestly, that type of defensive tackle. And then offensive line, our last good offensive lineman was Samuel Cosme, and he went, the third round? So that's not really judging much. And then Sam Ehlinger got drafted, but he was a 6th-round pick. So, guys, we have to be realistic with ourselves. I have Texas football PTSD. Don't we all at this point? I feel like I do as well. Sarkeesian said they are finally too deep everywhere. He must like the linebacker group and safeties. I agree, we're too deep everywhere. But to be a national – see, that's the difference between college football playoff and national championship. National championship teams are 3 deep everywhere. To win your conference and get to the college football playoff, or at least be in the top 6, you can be 2 deep. And we are 2 deep. So that's why my expectation is top 6 and winning the Big 12 or at least getting there. But top 3, if you go look at the Alabamas, the Georgias, when Ohio State won their national championship, that's 3 deep at almost every position. In my opinion, there's only a couple positions you don't have to be 3 deep at. Running back, kicker, and punter. That's it. Everywhere else, if you go look, they were 3 deep. And what I mean by that is your third best guy wasn't obviously an All-American when he played, but he could hold down the fort. He was a C+ guy at that position. We don't have that at some positions right now, in my opinion, at linebacker and at safety, but I could be proven wrong. If that happens to be the case where we are 3 deep now at every position, he absolutely has to win the Big 12. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Screw it. I agree. The last 2 years, I have been drinking the Kool-Aid. Last year, D4 and I sat here and talked about how we believe that was the building block year for next year, which is this year. And they has to be, guys. They have to make the Big 12 championship game. They have to. I'm going to go insane if they don't. I'm not going to go crazy if they lose to Alabama. I'm not going to go crazy if they lose one Big 12 game. Guys, if they lose 2 Big 12 games and that second Big 12 game happens and you're not here, you're going to miss something special because I'm going to go absolutely ballistic. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe because I will go insane. All my sports teams kind of suck right now, so I need Texas to be good. So please, for the love of God, be good. Long shot is TCU because their roster is clearly the 3rd best if you go by recruiting. Okay, I guess. Some of those guys have transferred out. I don't know if you take that into the equation. You also take into the equation, Trey Sanders was a 5-star recruit coming in out of high school, but he's not a 5-star recruit. He's not. That's why he's not in Alabama anymore. If he played to the 5-star recruit level, he'd still be at Alabama. Like, what are the factors there? They could be the 3rd best roster in the Big 12. I don't think they are, personally. If I had to say the 3rd best roster in the Big 12, I would honestly say Kansas State is the 3rd best roster in the Big 12, but I could be wrong there. We'll see. Like I said, it'll be an interesting season. As a Michigan fan, I'm still hesitant coming into this year. Got Charlie Brown too many times. Yes, you did. But we've gotten it worse. So don't compare yourselves to us because at least you guys have been to the playoff, won the Big Ten. We haven't done that in a long time. So we're hoping to do that. Okay, Matthew, I finally got your comment. KSU will play Texas in the conference championship game, so you think Kansas State will win the conference again. I don't think they'll win the conference just because I don't think they're going to win it 2 times in a row. I don't. I just don't see that happening under Chris Klieman. I could be 100% wrong on that. But right now, I think Texas is going to win it. I think Texas Tech, Kansas State, Kansas, Oklahoma, and TCU are probably the other teams competing for that other spot, honestly. I dropped Oklahoma State out of that ranking. I don't think Oklahoma State's competing for that anymore after looking at the running back room and quarterback room. We'll have to see, though. We'll see if their offensive line is good enough. I have a feeling it's not, and I don't think their defense is going to be very good this year. So Oklahoma State could be very bad this year. Yes, again, but have all those guys stayed? Because I don't know if they count that for transfers in and out, all that stuff. College football has changed. Obviously, that metric would have worked a couple years ago, but how many of those guys have stayed? I did not see that. That is big news because he's pretty good. So I do believe if he is out for a significant amount of time or suspended the whole year, Iowa State could probably be – I would change my rankings. If he's out the whole year, Iowa State's finishing as one of the 3 worst teams. It's going to be Cincinnati if he's out for the whole year, Iowa State, and then probably West Virginia. I think that would bump Houston up 1 spot to number 10 in the conference, but we'll have to see. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. This has been another episode of Texas Tuesday Live right here, as you see it scrolling down on below on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel. You guys have been awesome tonight. I want you guys to share this out with people. Please let them know I'm here every Tuesday leading up to the season, in the season, and then after the games every Saturday. Trying to grow this channel. Go over to the Texas channel, subscribe there, like it. Bring more people. Bring as many people as you can. I love having the conversation with you guys. It's been freaking awesome. Once again, next week, offensive line rankings in the Big 12, and I'll be breaking down the next 2 games in the Texas schedule. Texas in my schedule preseason wise. Right now, win versus Rice, win versus Oklahoma, or win versus Wyoming. Sorry, loss versus Alabama, win versus Baylor, win versus Oklahoma, and win versus Houston. So we are sitting at 5-1 halfway through the season that I predicted. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe. I will keep those coming out. I will also have the final week before the season starts. I will have what I think the Big 12 standings will end up being and a final record prediction. Lock it in stone for Texas this year. It's been awesome, guys. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Thank you, guys. Hook 'em.